friends, Jerry Rosa here in the Rosa String Works Workshop. Here's part 3 of the Kentucky mandolin top build. You can see it's looking pretty good. We'll show you in this video how we got it up to this point. I will just add that I've also done a lot of filling around here that I didn't put in the video, just with plain old wood filler, because there was so much chipping and cracking and, whoever had taken the top off, I guess I don't know if they had planned to replace it or not, but anyway, there was lots of chips in the finish and stuff. So basically I filled it. What I think I'm going to have to do is eventually sand this whole side down and actually airbrush and spray the whole side in addition to the top in order to make it look good. So that'll be in part 4 though. Part 4 we'll finish this thing up and get her strung up. But right now, hope you enjoy part 3. We're going to do a little sidetrack here. I've got 2 different tops that I want to show you. This one is a Kentucky top. I showed it to you in an earlier video. You can see there how it's made and everything. And here is an Alvarez top, and you can see how it's made. Now, Alvarez and Kentucky, as far as I know, were never in cahoots, at least as far as I know. I don't know anything about that, though, so there may be somebody right away say, no, they were owned by the same company. I don't have any idea. I have no idea about that. I'm not even getting in that dogfight. But I am going to tell you, even though this is a Kentucky and this is an Alvarez, I'm going to prove to you that these were made by the very same person. And you're going to go, yeah, right. How are you going to prove that? Well, I'm going to show you. First of all, when you look at them and you put them, put one over the top of the other, they match identically. I mean, they're not close. They are identical. The F-holes are identical in the same places. This carving, if you look how it's carved and then it kind of drops off straight, this is carved and then it drops off straight. It's carved there and then drops off straight, carved and drops off straight. The amount of detail in here is exactly the same. And like I said, the F-holes are identical in size and shape. Okay, but that wouldn't prove it, of course. So now we'll turn it over this way. And first of all, I want to show that this was machine carved. It's flat, absolutely flat, right where my finger is here. The whole thing is completely flat, that far in, all the way around. Same exact way on this. It's flat all the way around, right where my finger is, and goes back to wide right here and flat again. It's completely flat. It's not graduated, it's flat. Okay, so both of those are the exact same way. Then you look and you say, well, that still doesn't prove it. Well, all right, I'll agree with you. Then you look at the bevel of the F-holes, and the bevel is identical. You can't see it probably as well as I can here, but the beveling is exactly the same. Even when you get down to the gluing up, how sloppy the glue is, exactly the same. Then you look at the braces, and the braces are identical. By the way, the scalloping inside of here is identical, and it was done with a machine, you can tell. There's also an indention right about here where there was a clamp on it, it looks like, and you can see a faint indention on this, although it's not as pronounced. Then you look at these braces, and this little center brace ordinarily wouldn't even be there, but the reason it is there is because they carved it with a machine and they made it exactly the same thickness everywhere. I've tested this. It measures exactly, they both measure exactly the same thickness, and they measure the same thickness everywhere. Okay. The braces are identical in size and shape. That still doesn't prove that the same man made these. But now I'm going to prove to you that the same man made each of these. See that little pencil mark right there? Maybe you can see it. There's a pencil mark exactly in the same place on this one. Right there where my finger is. There's one there. Same way over here. Same way here. Same way here. Not only are the pencil marks in the exact same places, exactly the same places, but they even curve the same way, just like handwriting. I'm telling you for black and white fact, the same man made both of these tops. And like I said, I know for sure this was an Alvarez. I know for sure this was a Kentucky because I took it off of both of them. I wrote it on here when I did it. This one came from, boy, it's fading out though. This is Alvarez, came from Illinois. This is a Kentucky, and it came from Georgia. And anyway, that is a black and white fact that the same person made these two tops. My thought is this guy, whoever made these, had his own sweatshop somewhere, and all he did, or maybe he made everything, but he for sure made tops. And he'd make these tops. He'd go, okay, this one goes to Kentucky, this one goes to Alvarez, this goes to Kentucky, this goes to Alvarez, and he just flipped them off with a line like that as he was making them. Now that's my opinion. I don't know for a black and white fact that's how they did it, but that's what I would suspect. Anyway, I just thought you'd find that interesting. The customer had asked if I had measured the inside of, or the back on this as far as graduations go. But I can also tell that this was made in a factory, and it was made on a machine. I can see the swirl marks from the sander in here. I'm just going to check it. It's really hard to check because the sides, my little jig here doesn't work very good. Actually, it does appear to have some graduation to this. It's actually graduated better than I would have thought. This one is. Yeah, it's, well, now that I look at it, that's not good. It's not graduated the right way. I thought it was, I wasn't looking at it close enough. It's getting very thick out here on this outer edge. This is 215 thousandths, and it's only 150 thousandths in the middle. Now, folks, that's almost exactly backwards. So it is graduated, but it's graduated backwards in my opinion. It's much thinner in the middle here than it is out on this outer edge. This outer edge, like I said, is over 200,000. This here is only 140 or so, 150. So it's weird. That's my answer on that. It's weird. I don't know what that'll do to the sound. But I've always said the top is responsible for at least 80% of your sound, so I'm hoping that we'll prove that when we put the top on this. We are back on the bench with this Kentucky Mandolin top. I have got the very center here reasonably close. We're within 30 or 40 thousandths of where we need to be. So that's pretty close actually. If you get down and measure that, that's not very far. So I'm going to go around and go back over on the top again, and just by feel and by look, I'm going to scallop these edges down just a little bit more. I don't think they're quite where I want them.
An old battered case, weathered and worn, with the hinges all rusted and the fabric all torn, but still cradled inside was one old precious thing. It was Grandpa's old fiddle, oh how sweetly it rings. Grandpa's old fiddle played sweet melodies. He played it from his heart for my grandma and me. Wrinkled old hands, he held it with love, and I can still hear it playing up in heaven above. The most honest man that I ever have seen, and his time on this old earth was most precious to me. He lived on Current River at the mouth of Blue Springs, and at night the hills echoed as the old fiddle would ring. Grandpa's old fiddle played sweet melodies. He played it from his heart for my grandma and me. wrinkled old hands, he held it with love, and I can still hear it playing up in heaven above. Just a boy at the time, I remember a day when Grandpa and that old fiddle some old tunes he did play. Well, now Grandpa, he has left us for heaven above, but he left me that old fiddle, and now I play it with love. Grandpa's old fiddle played sweet melodies. He played it from his heart for my grandma and me. Wrinkled old hands.
I have the back carved pretty close. You can see under there is a pretty good, pretty steep bevel to it, I guess you'd say. And it's looking pretty good. I am going to now take time and measure it real good and see where I'm at. I know I'm still a little heavy in most places. There's a couple places where I'm pretty close. What I'm going to do now is I'm just going to take a Dremel tool and I'm going to route out this area here. I do this with a Dremel tool for a couple of reasons. The grain is kind of twisty through here and it's a little hard to cut. The Dremel tool is a little bit faster, and there's no real purpose other than to just reduce the weight, and so that's why I'll just use a Dremel tool and just knock some of this out here. I've done some careful measuring, got the top pretty darn close already. I am just smoothing out the lines and the bumps with the scraper now, and then we'll do some final measuring and make sure that we get it just where I want it. It's measuring or weighing about 4.8 ounces, and in terms of grams, 136 grams. So it's definitely lost some weight. It could stand to lose a little more weight. So we're going to work on it some more. I can feel places where I feel like it's a little heavy, and where the graduation's not as smooth as it could be. I don't think I've taken off enough wood to make much difference here, so it's probably going to still be about the same. 134 grams now, 134 grams, and I think we're just about done. By measurement, it's just about right. I got to thinking about it, and probably the difference in weight would be because it's a little bigger around. Keep in mind, it's probably 3/16 of an inch bigger all the way around, so that's going to make quite a bit of difference. And it's probably a different variety of spruce than I normally use. I use the Adirondack red spruce, and I don't know what this is. I didn't ask the fellow that sent it, the customer, but it's pretty decent spruce, but it may be a slightly denser spruce, possibly, so it may be just a little bit heavier. I'm feeling a little bit of a spot right here that I'm going to take out as I sit there and talk. You can really feel it better than you can see it. But it feels very smooth now all the way around. You know, I do this and you can feel the slightest little bump when you do it this way. And I don't feel anything. I mean, it's very smooth. The scraper really does a good job of smoothing it out. So I think we're done on the carving. It's got a nice tone. I doubt again that you can hear it. And it sustains very well. So I think we're done. We're going to mark where the braces go, put those in, and okay, I've got my pattern on here. This is the Lloyd Loar pattern, and I'm going to mark where the braces go. And now we'll get some wood and we'll start profiling these braces to fit. I'm setting the treble bar in place, and I have a little block of wood that has a hole in it, and I have just a ballpoint pen sticking through there, and that's what I've been using for years. And this will follow the curvature of the top and mark on the brace where I need to cut it. There you can see how it marked the brace, and now I'll cut that out very accurately on the bandsaw. Now we'll do the same thing on the base bar. Put it in the exact place where I want it, and then just trace it. After cutting it out, I put the brace in place, then I hold it up to a bright light and I look underneath it to see if I can see any light shining through. And on this one it's pretty darn close already, but I do see a little bit of light in a couple places. So what I'll do now, since I can see light in just a couple places, is I'll lay this piece of carbon paper on here, and I try to lay it as close to the edge as I can so I know that I'm getting this back in the right place, because it all matters. You have to get it all just right. And then I'm just going to kind of work it like this to see where the black spots are. And you can see that the black rubbed off right there, so it's high here, here, and a little bit here. And all we do is we just take the little finger plane, and we'll try that again and see if we get any more distinct spotting. Got a little bit more. Now I'm going to hold it up to the light again and see if I can see any light underneath it. If I don't see any light underneath it, then it's good enough. Well, it's decreased, but it's still got a little bit of light under it, so I think I'm going to shave off a little bit more here where these high spots were.
My sweet Melinda of the mountain, I recall the day I met her on the mountain in the fall, in the fall. Come springtime, we were married in a church house. Our love grew the summer long. Little did I know my sweet.
Okay, that's pretty good. We're going to call that good enough, and we're going to get these glued in place. You can see I've got this one glued up already. That's the base bar. This will be the treble bar.
Melinda of the mountain, I
Another hint that the braces are fit in there perfectly is when you clamp one of these spring clamps on it, it doesn't pop up. You know, it just still stays right where it's supposed to be because it's got even pressure all the way through. It's touching everywhere, and it's not rocking like this. So it's absolutely touching all the way through there. That's very important for these braces. It's been 24 hours. We'll take the clamps off and see how it looks. These braces are way too big at the moment.
Can't help but cry and remember the day I lost my Melinda in the fall. My sweet Melinda of the mountain. I recall the day I lost her on the mountain. Now I'll cry forevermore. Now I'll cry forevermore. I'm an old dirt farmer, I scrape a living from the soul. Like my father before me, I labor and toil. But my father said, son, you should move away. He said, farm life is dying, son, please don't stay. I moved to the city and I tried to fit in. I thought of my father and how the crops would get in. I could hear him say, son, you should move away.
I have penciled in roughly where the F-holes go on the inside of this, and that's only because I'm going to be gluing some reinforcement over the top of these F-holes before I cut them out. I'm going to glue in some gauze, and I'll have to let that dry before I actually cut it out. So I'm getting ready to do that. Alright, I'm just going to spread on just this white glue. That's what I use for this.
I returned for a visit, but I was too late. My father lay dying, I knew it was fate.
Give that quite a bit of time to dry there so that we can saw it without it ripping off of there.
I just couldn't leave him, and he knew
It's been 24 hours. The gauze is dried real well. I'm going to shave the gauze back off where it's not supposed to be.
like my father before me.
I've already traced the pattern on the other side, and now we will cut out these F-holes. It's a nice tedious job. First thing I do is drill holes at both ends of the F-hole so I have a way to insert the blade. Now we'll get the little saw and saw it out. I have the blade inserted through the top, and now we will attempt to saw it out.
You won't find it on a well-traveled highway, not even on a dusty gravel road. And you have to want to be there when you find it, for it's not on any maps I know. Out across the field, through the pasture, climb along a steep and rocky trail. When you cross that little creek in the valley, you'll see that vine-covered church on the hill. That vine-covered church above the valley, where the congregation gathered to pray. Built with their hands from the forest, now stands as a marker for the grave. The siding and shingles are tattered, the steeple leans slightly to the right.
Now that we have it rough cut out, we'll do all the detail filing. And I have a half round file that I used for most of this.
Gather in that holy place still, though they lie at rest in the valley, beneath that vine-covered church on the hill. That vine-covered church above the valley, where the congregation gathered to pray. Built with their hands from the forest, now stands as a marker for the grave. Church above the valley, where the congregation gathered to pray. Built with their hands from the forest, now stands as a marker for the graves. It still stands as a marker for the grave. Seen a dogwood tree growing wild in the woods? The story goes that little tree once grew so large, but no more you see. That little dogwood tree so small once made a cross for one and all, and it had thorns that made a crown for our king so heaven bound. Spring, the dogwood blooms, it blooms so white and tenderly. It is a symbol of his life and his kingdom way up high. That little dogwood tree so once made a cross for one and all, and it had thorns that made a crown for a king so heaven bound.
That's about as even as I'm going to be able to get it right now. I'll probably sit it down and look at it in another hour or two and just, you know, pick out little detail-y stuff that I could do different. And that's just the way it is with this kind of stuff. I don't know if you can hear it, but now it's got a very deep, mellow sound. Very loud, very clear. As a contrast, I'll get the Kentucky top and tap on it to let you hear the difference. Okay, the Kentucky top has almost no sound at all. There's just a tiny bit of a ring and almost no sustain. It's significantly different. I don't know that you can hear it over the camera, but it is significantly different. Anybody, musical ear or not, can hear the difference. Well, she's all together. You can see in places it's a little large, but that's okay. We'll cut that down after we get it glued on there. I've got it fitting pretty good almost everywhere now. Actually, before I glue it on there, I probably will draw that sticking out just a little bit too much right in that area there, but I'll probably trace that yet and cut that off. But otherwise, it's fitting up pretty good and fairly level. I'm looking around, you know, I don't see any air gaps. It looks like it's going to be just fine, so we're just about ready to glue her all up. Okay, we're going to squirt the glue all over. We'll take a brush and brush it out. I like that. It's lined up good. Looks good. Okay, we'll put the clamps on it. I paused the camera there and wiped up all the glue around the edges and stuff because I kind of got glue all over it as I was fighting it there. Well, there she is, all clamped up. I don't think we can do much better than that. I don't really feel like I need a clamp right here. I might try put one in there though, just for grins. That's really wedged in there tight, so I think that's clamped by itself good enough, but I will put a clamp on here now that I think about it. Other than that, I think she's pretty well done. This is the conclusion of part 3. In probably a 4-part video series. I will probably do one more video putting the binding on, putting the finish on, and then playing it, of course. But that'll probably take several weeks before you'll see the final part because it takes a long time for those finishes to dry and everything. And so it'll be a while before we're able to string this up. So this will probably be the last you'll see of this for at least 2 to 3 weeks, maybe more.